The explosion of homelessness in Canada. Reasons behind the alarming crisis. On sunny summer days, as the Eramosa River winds through Guelph, Ontario, canoes quietly drift along the calm waters, carrying people toward the unspoiled beauty of Ontario's Greenbelt. Guelph, a small city with its charm rooted in beautiful parks and a relaxing atmosphere, has always been a place where people can escape the hustle of daily life and immerse themselves in nature. However, this once picturesque scene has changed in ways no one could have anticipated. On what seems like a peaceful afternoon, you might notice makeshift tents appearing amidst the lush greenery. Informal campsites have sprung up along the riverbanks. Arguments echo sporadically from under the bridges, and a sense of unease and displacement seems to seep through the layers of leaves. Spaces that once belonged solely to nature have now become makeshift shelters for those with nowhere else to go. This is no longer a rare occurrence, but has become a widespread reality stretching from Belleville, Ontario, to Halifax, Nova Scotia. People are beginning to ask, what happened? What has driven a prosperous, developed nation like Canada into an unprecedented homelessness crisis? These pressing questions lead us to 6 deep-seated reasons, each representing a piece of the challenging puzzle society is currently facing. In today's discussion, let's delve deeper into the driving forces behind this troubling phenomenon and explore why the dream of a stable home in Canada is becoming increasingly distant for many. Reason 1: rising rental costs. One of the main causes driving the surge in homelessness across Canada is the dramatic increase in rental costs. According to data from rentals.ca, in January 2024, the average rent for a 2-bedroom apartment in Canada reached $2,196, a 10% increase from the same period last year. This is not just a statistic, but a harsh reality for millions. When more than 30% of income must be spent on housing, a threshold the government identifies as unaffordable, middle and low-income households are almost pushed to their breaking point. In major cities like Toronto and Vancouver, the situation is even worse, with average rents exceeding $2,500 and $2,700 respectively. Behind these stark numbers are painful stories of families cutting essential expenses, living in cramped conditions, or facing the constant threat of losing their homes. The reasons for the high rental prices are a combination of several factors: economic growth and inflation. While economic growth can be seen as a positive indicator, it also leads to inflation, raising the cost of living. Landlords, trying to offset their rising costs, pass these onto tenants, increasing rental prices and financial burdens. Low vacancy rates. Canada's low rental vacancy rates remain a critical issue. When the demand for rental housing far exceeds supply, especially in fast-growing urban areas with large immigrant populations, competition among renters becomes fierce. According to reports, the national vacancy rate in 2020 was only 3.2%, down from 3.4% in 2019. In areas like Halifax and Victoria, the rate was below 1%, making it nearly impossible to find suitable housing. Shortage of affordable housing. The lack of affordable housing further exacerbates the issue. With limited options available, low-income families must compete with higher-income renters. The Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, CMHC, estimates that 1.6 million Canadian households are in core housing need, meaning they are forced to spend over 30% of their income on housing that does not meet basic standards or is unsuitable. As these pressures mount, a vicious cycle is created. Tenants face financial instability and are constantly at risk of becoming homeless due to sudden financial shocks or personal crises. The Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness, CAEH, has warned that without decisive action, Canada could face a surge in evictions and homelessness in the near future. Reason 2: the financialization of real estate. In the context of Canada's housing crisis, the term financialization of real estate has emerged as one of the most prominent and contentious factors. Although it may sound complex, this concept is crucial to understanding why so many Canadians are struggling to find a place to call home. Simply put, the financialization of real estate is the process of turning housing, a basic human need, into a financial asset. Instead of focusing on fulfilling housing needs, real estate is increasingly seen as an investment opportunity. This trend has led to homes and apartments no longer serving their primary function as shelters, but instead becoming tools for generating profit. This shift has had profound effects on Canada's housing market. More and more investors are buying properties not to live in them, but to rent them out or hold on to them until their value increases. This behavior isn't limited to wealthy individuals, but also extends to large corporations, investment funds, and organizations with immense financial resources. These big players are willing to pay significantly more than individual buyers, reducing the number of homes available to families genuinely in need of a place to live. The financialization of real estate has created a cycle with increasingly visible consequences. Rising property prices. The involvement of investors heightens competition, pushing property prices to levels unaffordable for many Canadians. This makes the dream of home ownership more distant for countless families. Distorted rental markets. When investors control a significant portion of the housing supply, their main goal is to maximize profits. This leads to soaring rental prices, leaving many people struggling to find housing at reasonable costs. Increased homelessness. The transformation of housing from a fundamental right to a commodity has significantly contributed to the homelessness crisis in Canada. The growing number of tent encampments is a stark testament to the failure to balance housing needs with financial interests. To address this issue, Canada must implement robust measures to regulate the housing market, striking a delicate balance between encouraging investment for economic growth and ensuring that the housing market fulfills its primary purpose. Providing safe and affordable shelter is essential. Without such changes, the financialization of real estate will continue to fuel instability, pushing even more people into homelessness. Reason 3. The rise of short-term rentals. Airbnb, once celebrated as an innovative way to use vacant spaces and generate extra income, has become one of the contributors to Canada's housing crisis. Homes that were once used for long-term rentals have been converted into short-term rental units to cater to tourism demand. This shift has negatively impacted the housing market, taking away opportunities for those who genuinely need stable housing. A significant number of properties across Canada have been removed from the long-term rental market due to the growth of Airbnb. A study by McGill University in 2018 found that up to 31,000 homes nationwide had been converted into short-term rental units, accounting for approximately 1.5% of the total rental housing supply. This figure represents tens of thousands of families struggling to find housing amidst a severe shortage. The impacts of this trend are wide-ranging. Reduced long-term rental supply. Many landlords, instead of offering affordable and stable rental options, shift to Airbnb to take advantage of higher profits from tourists. Higher housing demand. The shift to short-term rentals increases competition for properties, driving up rental prices. Community disruption. Once quiet neighborhoods suitable for families now face noise, security concerns, and the loss of local identity due to the influx of short-term renters. To mitigate these effects, cities like Toronto and Vancouver have introduced regulations to manage Airbnb operations, such as limiting the number of nights rentals are permitted and requiring licenses. However, enforcement challenges persist as some landlords bypass rules or operate illegally, undermining regulatory efforts. Reason 4. Challenges in constructing low-density housing. Canada is currently facing a severe problem in its housing market, a significant shortage in the construction of new homes, especially low-density housing projects. Despite the growing demand for housing, the pace of building new projects is not fast enough to meet the real needs of the population. This has made the housing market more strained than ever, leading to skyrocketing home prices and rental rates, while making it increasingly difficult for people to find stable accommodations. One major reason for this is the slow and complex approval and construction processes in Canada. Zoning regulations and administrative procedures, which vary across provinces and cities, pose significant barriers to developing new housing projects. As a result, there is a lack of housing supply, particularly affordable housing and long-term rental units, while demand continues to rise. Another issue is the rapidly increasing cost of construction. Rising material costs and labor shortages have placed immense financial pressure on real estate developers, forcing them to adjust their construction plans. Instead of investing in low-density or affordable housing projects, many developers focus on high-end projects that promise higher returns. This shift has further deepened the shortage of affordable homes for low- and middle-income families. This housing shortage directly impacts affordability. When housing supply cannot keep up with demand, home and rental prices continue to climb, pushing more people to the margins of society and into homelessness. When the housing market cannot provide reasonable and stable housing options for everyone, homelessness becomes more prevalent, leading to instability for many Canadians. To tackle this issue, Canada needs to reform its housing approval and construction processes. Policies and regulations must be streamlined to make it easier to initiate new housing projects. Innovative solutions to improve land use efficiency and reduce construction costs should also be explored, encouraging developers to invest in housing projects that cater to low- and middle-income households. Without such changes, the shortage of affordable housing, along with rising rental and home prices, will continue to worsen, exacerbating the homelessness crisis in Canada. Reason 5. Lack of political will. A critical factor preventing Canada's housing crisis from being resolved effectively is the lack of political will to reduce housing costs. Although this issue has become the subject of intense public debate, political leaders have yet to take sufficiently bold actions to tackle the ever-increasing cost of housing. Why are they hesitant? And what are the consequences of this inaction? One significant reason is the influence of property-owning voter groups, particularly older Canadians. This demographic constitutes a substantial voting bloc and has a vested interest in maintaining high property values. Any measures that could reduce housing prices may alienate these voters, risking political fallout for elected leaders. Additionally, fears of an economic shock from falling property values act as another major deterrent. Real estate is not only a personal asset, but also a cornerstone of Canada's economy. A sharp decline in housing prices could cause significant financial losses, shake investor confidence, and trigger a ripple effect across the broader economy. However, this hesitation has dire consequences. First, the housing affordability crisis is becoming increasingly severe. Young people, middle and low-income families, and newcomers to Canada face growing difficulties in buying or renting homes. Their dreams of establishing stable lives grow more distant as housing costs continue to climb. Second, homelessness continues to escalate. Without access to stable housing, many people are forced to live in makeshift tent camps or overcrowded conditions that fail to meet basic living standards. This not only affects quality of life, but also exacerbates social inequalities, creating additional challenges in public health and safety. Addressing this issue requires a fundamental shift in the mindset and actions of political leaders. Instead of avoiding the issue, they need to prioritize breakthrough policies to promote housing affordability, such as investing in social housing, implementing rent controls, and reforming real estate regulations. These measures must be implemented in a balanced way to protect the broader economy while ensuring housing is treated as a basic human right rather than a luxury commodity. If swift action is not taken, This lack of political will could continue to deepen the housing crisis, leaving many Canadians in increasingly precarious situations. Housing is not just a shelter, it is the foundation for a stable and sustainable life, and ensuring this right must be a top priority. Reason 6. Excess demand. Canada has set an ambitious goal of welcoming more than 500,000 permanent residents each year. This initiative aims to boost the economy, address labor shortages, and enrich the nation's culture. However, this rapid influx of newcomers presents a significant challenge. The current pace of housing construction cannot keep up with demand. Let's explore why this imbalance between supply and demand is problematic and what it means for the housing market. The supply-demand imbalance. Rapid population growth. An annual influx of over 500,000 newcomers significantly increases the demand for housing, putting immense pressure on an already strained market. Sluggish construction pace. Builders and developers in Canada are struggling to keep up with the housing needs of a growing population, leading to a critical shortage of homes. Consequences of the imbalance. Rising home prices. With more people competing for the same limited housing supply, prices naturally increase. This makes it difficult for both new immigrants and existing residents to afford homes. Rental market strain. The rental market is also affected, as newcomers often look for rental properties upon arrival. The heightened demand drives up rental prices and reduces vacancy rates, leaving many struggling to find affordable housing. Imagine arriving in Canada, filled with hope and dreams, only to find that securing housing is a daunting challenge. For many new residents, this is the reality. They face fierce competition for housing, leading to overcrowded living conditions. Reports have shown instances of multiple families sharing single homes or students crowding into basement apartments, all in search of affordable shelter. Conclusion. Addressing this issue requires a multifaceted approach. Accelerating housing construction, speeding up the pace of building more homes is critical. Innovative housing solutions. Exploring creative solutions like modular housing or converting commercial properties into residential units can help alleviate shortages. Supportive policies for newcomers. Implementing policies that ensure housing affordability for newcomers can make a significant difference in their ability to integrate and contribute to Canadian society. While Canada's goal of welcoming a large number of permanent residents each year is admirable for its economic and social benefits, it also necessitates an increase in housing construction to meet demand. Failure to address this pressing issue risks worsening the housing crisis, affecting not only newcomers, but all Canadians seeking affordable housing. Final thoughts. The explosion of homelessness in Canada and the rise of tent encampments nationwide are not isolated phenomena, but the result of a complex interplay of factors. Solving these problems requires comprehensive and coordinated efforts from all levels of government, the private sector, and communities. Creative solutions, increased political courage, and a commitment to building affordable housing are imperative to reverse this trend. As we move forward, it is crucial to remember that every Canadian deserves a place to call home.